Now, every country has supply chains, every industry has supply chains, but China has a supply chain that no other country has. This supply chain involves state security, public security, hospitals, biotech companies, airlines, high-speed rail, and most disturbingly, schools. What industry is this? Well, saying it out loud could cost your life, as we've seen in the case of the actor who died. In China, some people called it a 150-year industry. So where does that name come from? It came from this picture. Remember this? September 3rd last year, when Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin were talking about how humans could live to 150 years old when they were on their way to the military, to watch the military parade. At the time, many people laughed and thought that Xi Jinping was joking or bragging. But he wasn't joking and he wasn't bragging. He was expressing confidence in what China's medical system can do. And now more people are starting to understand what he meant. In simple terms, people are discovering a dark medical supply chain, one in which young people have become the source of spare body parts for the rich and powerful. Schools, hospitals, police, and local governments are all complicit. Public discussion of this topic has exploded inside China as more people go missing. And the age range keeps expanding from toddlers to teenagers to young adults to now even middle-aged men and women, including people in their 50s. In fact, I told you last week that there was an official from Shanghai who told his circle of friends that nobody should go to the hospitals to do physical exams if they're under the age of 60, because as the demand for body parts soared, when a 90-year-old is in demand of an organ, a 50-year-old still looks good. But still, the biggest group affected is children. So just in 2026, right, as 2026 begins, reports of missing children across China have become noticeably more frequent. This is probably the biggest topic, the hottest topic that I've seen coming out of China. So right after the mysterious death of that 13-year-old boy in Henan, in less than a week, more kids disappeared in the region. He disappeared on January the 8th. Then on the following day, another boy went missing in a township 40 kilometers away from the Xingcai County. And then on January 11th, a 14-year-old boy, Yang Jiahao, went missing in Shangji Township. And then the next day, the January 12th, a 13-year-old boy, Wang Yiqun, disappeared in Heilong Township. And then that same day, a 14-year-old girl, Xu Mengyao, went missing in Dancheng County, Henan. Now, at the same time, helicopters began appearing repeatedly in busy urban areas, transporting what many suspect to be organs or organ harvesting victims. So at around 2 p.m. on January the 15th, the helicopter was filming lifting a white bag from a rooftop of a traditional Chinese medicine hospital in Xiamen, Fujian. Netizens immediately noticed something disturbing. The white bag appears to be moving, and many suspected it contained a child. And as online questions grew louder, authorities began aggressively censoring the footage. That there's a child. Somebody blew up the image and saw a child in that white bundle. So people were asking if it were a normal medical emergency, simply airlifting a sick child for treatment, then one question immediately follows: why censor the video? What's the big deal, right? And there are more footages. On January 17th, this is 17th in Qingdao, and a yellow helicopter labeled, it says Shandong Expressway, it landed directly at a major road intersection, blocking traffic for 15 minutes. 15. Cars and pedestrians were forced to wait. And then an ambulance arrived. Items were transferred onto the helicopter, and it later landed on the rooftop of a medical facility. And so the comment sections under these videos were chilling. People were saying things like, freshly killed, parts have arrived, missing persons explained, emergency, harvesting. Someone says, whose organs were stolen? Yeah, and this one, I think it was in Guangzhou. This one is in Guangzhou at a medical school. It's at the campus of the Southern Medical University. And it was to pick up what the video uploader described as parts. And then the person who uploaded the video emphasized that the footage was completely unedited. Now, helicopters have since appeared in many cities, sometimes on roads, sometimes on rooftops, and leaving people unsure whether they were indeed rescue missions or something evil. Now, many of China's top-tier hospitals and regional medical centers already have or are actively building helicopter landing pads on their rooftops. And one netizen tried to post a video showing a landing pad being constructed at Jiangxi Children's Hospital, but the post simply would not go through. He was not able to upload that video. State media insist that these helipads exist to create green emergency channels for critically ill patients, but many people no longer believe that. They suspect these channels primarily serve the CCP elites, and that their real function is to transport freshly harvested organs, or even to deliver living donors directly to hospitals for immediate organ removal. Anger is spreading online, especially as disappearances continue across the country. Now, in a country with 700 million surveillance cameras, almost one per person if China only has 700 million people, why so many people cannot be found? And perhaps the most terrifying part is parents are not even allowed to search for their missing children. If they do, there's a new label for them. It's called malicious child seeking. That phrase alone has shocked the Chinese public. So people ask, if your child disappeared, wouldn't you look for them? What kind of malice would possibly exist in a parent desperately trying to find their own child? And that is why many believe the rapidly expanding organ harvesting killing industry spreading through society like late-stage cancer may ultimately become the final straw. It crosses a moral red line that ordinary people cannot accept. It's too much. It strikes directly at the parents' most basic instinct to protect their children. There are even worse scenarios. Now, on January 18th, another disturbing video surfaced online. It was in Shenzhen. It shows a young woman being forcibly restrained on a stretcher by two individuals dressed as medical staff and three men in black clothing. She fought back desperately, kicking at her captors and shouting that she did not want to die and that she felt extremely tired. And she appeared physically weak, possibly already drugged, but remained conscious and clearly aware she was in danger. Another woman nearby tried to make a phone call, trying to help her, but she was powerless. She couldn't stop the five abductors. A similar incident reportedly occurred the day before, also in Shenzhen. After a traffic accident, neither police nor traffic authorities arrived. Guess who arrived in no time? An ambulance arrived first. Four large men in irregular clothing got out and carried the woman who was hit. I think she was on a moped and she was hit and then she fell. And so these men, large men, carried her directly into the ambulance. So people immediately erupted. The internet erupted. People asked, how is the ambulance arriving faster than the police? So some said they hit her on purpose, then sent a fake ambulance to harvest organs. And someone lamented, medical workers were supposed to save lives. Now people fear them and hospitals. And these incidents are not isolated. Last May, a video circulated on X showing a woman in Yuzhou, Henan, again in Henan, being handcuffed by police dressed as emergency medical personnel and forcibly carried away on a stretcher. She screamed, I saw that video. She screamed to passerbys. She said, my name is such. I'm fully conscious and healthy. What kind of hospital puts handcuffs on people? Help me. People watched, no one intervened. And then similarly, in June last year, in Guangxi, near in a place called Guigang, a 16-year-old girl was injured in a traffic accident, and she was forcibly strapped to a stretcher by men dressed in black into an ambulance and was taken away in an ambulance. The next day, her body was delivered to a funeral home. So these are just a small number of cases, I'm telling you, but it's troubling. And then abductions are no longer limited to the streets. On the night of December 27th last year, which is less than a month ago, a woman living in Jingxiang apartments in Wenzhou was abducted from her home. Neighbors filmed this scene and posted online. I saw that video, where it quickly spread. The footage shows the woman screaming desperately for help as multiple individuals entered her apartment. Several uniformed men, suspected to be police, appeared in the hallway, along with a woman in a white coat. She is believed to be a medical staff. And the woman was eventually carried out by the three men and loaded into, again, an ambulance. She struggled violently, saying, "Save me, I do not want to die." A neighbor briefly opened his door to look, but did not intervene. It's chilling to tell you these stories. Now, meanwhile, the Chinese have found a large quantity of ID cards discarded in places that ID cards should not be found. Now, these are just three pictures I found. The one on the left is in I think a trash, near a pile of trash. You see scattered ID cards. And the one in the center was someone was fishing in a lake or in a river, and they found a bag of ID cards. And the one on the right was someone was trying to burn them. It was in a forest. Someone tried to burn a whole pile of ID cards, and they didn't all burn. And here are more. The one on the left is in a trash bin, ID cards, and the one on the right, they were scattered. And the Chinese media even reported this. They raised serious questions about the status of the ID cards owners, right? Where are these people now? And who were the ones destroying their ID cards? Well, in a place like China, these are forbidden questions. You won't get an answer. Organ transplantation has long been one of CCP's darkest industries. I would say I shouldn't say one of, the darkest industry. It involves public security, national security, judicial, medical institutions, now schools, victims, once largely limited to Falun Gong practitioners, the people who follow the spiritual practice of Falun Gong, and then later Uyghurs. Now they include ordinary citizens and many children. So for many Chinese families, the most basic sense of security is gone. When parents feel hopelessly vulnerable, when they realize they cannot protect their own children, do you think people still want to have children? What makes this even harder for parents is the role schools now play in the system. In China, physical exams are organized by schools, not by parents. Children are expected to obey teachers. So even though many parents have told their children not to let your teacher take you to physical exams, it's hard for students to resist that. They don't get to refuse. And parents often don't even get a real chance. So I have seen parents quietly taking their children home and stop sending them to school altogether. They say, even if my child doesn't learn anything at home, at least they're safe, at least they're alive. So with this level of parental anxiety, Chinese society is no longer afraid of having fewer babies. It's afraid of having children at all. A society can survive poverty. It can survive inequality, but it cannot survive once parents lose faith in the promise that their children will be protected.